thank you all so much for being here for this conversation. Thank you, Representative Justin J. Pearson. Thank you, Congresswoman Nikema Williams. It is very Southern on the stage right now.
Absolutely, as it should be.
Since all roads lead to the South, but we are grateful. We are grateful to be right here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and the love and support that Philly has shown us. So thank you all so much, Philly, and for everybody at Netroots. And we're gonna have a good conversation. And so to kick it off and get it started, we're looking at 250 years of America, right, coming up. Why the hell would y'all as Black people wanna serve this country? That's my first question.
So you want me to just jump in? Is that where we are?
Because we always have people say like, yeah, you know, we often as Black folks, we are always giving love to a country that doesn't necessarily love us back, and to even a party that isn't necessarily loving us back, but that's the vehicle that we have as Black people in order to move forward. So I'm gonna start with you, Congresswoman. Why do you continue to serve in this capacity?
I think the simplest way to put it is this country belongs to all of us, y'all.
That's right.
And it's up to us to continue to speak up and be engaged and involved in so many different ways. Then it includes my service as a Black Southern woman in the United States House of Representatives. So when you hear the people pushing back, that means that our voices are being heard. That means that sometimes they're getting a little afraid of more of us being represented at the table. And so we have an obligation to continue to be engaged. Last night I was walking around, it was my 16th wedding anniversary, y'all.
Oh, congratulations.
So I was like strolling around Philly with my hubby, and I saw all of these statues and everything commemorating 250 years. 250 years later, we're still fighting for Black representation to be fair in this country. We're not asking for more, just fairness. And so I know that I have an obligation to continue doing this work, to continue to show up in spaces like this, because I know I've been in the fight with so many of you in this room, and we've got more work to do, y'all. So let's not give up, because there are too many people counting on us, and that's why I continue to show up.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Yes. Representative.
Listen,
my fellow Memphian.
Absolutely. M-Town, Big Memphis,
Hey.
on stage at Netroots.
Say it, man.
With the movement. So glad to be here with you, and so honored and privileged to be on this stage with y'all. Listen, the reason that I believe in public service, the reason I am still committed to this country and where my USA flag is because this is our country. It was the blood and the work of our ancestors that created it, that built it. We're the economic foundation and also the fuel that made America into the country and as powerful as it currently is. But it is also people who come from the South, people who understand the struggles of oppression and suppression that have continued to fight to make America more of a democracy. Anytime it has made progress is because we have constructed it. It has not been because of the goodwill of anybody. And I think in this moment, in this time, serving in office, I'm obviously running for the United States Congress, District 9 in Tennessee. So hoping to join our amazing Congresswoman here. It is because the vision that we want for the future is still worth fighting for. And it's worth sacrificing for and showing up for and doing everything that we possibly can to make it more real, even though we're not there yet.
Yes, I love these answers. Gives me a lot of hope. And as we're talking about hope and looking forward, I know we are all ready. I'm ready for these midterms to come through, and I'm ready to take back the House and the Senate. I am ready for that.
Name it and claim it.
Name it and claim it. But also, we know that there's been some stagnation. There's been frustration with politicians not really seeing their seats in their moment as a time to actually build something new rather than just keep the status quo. So I'm going to ask you both, and I'm going to start with Congresswoman again. What are some of the non-negotiables that you see the Democrats having to do day one when we've got the House and the Senate back to move forward, not just keep things where they've been?
So I remind my colleagues all the time that we cannot negotiate on the backs of people.
Yes.
And that's what happens so often when you hear there's a side door deal or there's something happening, you'll find out about it later. We're negotiating on the backs of people who need us most. And I refuse to do that ever. But the one thing that we have to be clear on when we're coming to these tables, I'm wearing my John Lewis Good Trouble shirt today. I represent Georgia's fighting 5th Congressional District because I understand that when we fight for free and fair access to the ballot, when we stand up for voting rights, it makes every other issue that we care about possible. So if you care about economic justice, you've got to stand up for voting rights. If you care about reproductive justice, you've got to stand up for voting rights. If you care about workers' rights, you've got to stand up for voting rights. If you care about environmental justice, you've got to stand up for voting rights. No matter what that issue is, voting rights is the basis of it all. So that is my non-negotiable. We should have got rid of the filibuster in the first place to make sure that we could pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. It didn't happen when we were in the majority, but we've got to make sure that we stand strong and we remind people that the people always have the final say, and that's why voting is so important. That's why they're coming to attack our voices at the ballot box, because they understand that if we show up and vote, all of these other issues we can take care of.
Yes.
I mean, I have so many thoughts here, but let's be clear about something. When we were in the majority, we didn't pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement
In the House.
In the House. And that's a problem. It isn't enough to have us with Democrats by our name, and then we're not pushing policies of progress that improve the quality of lives for everybody, because we're getting the same corporate dollars that other people are getting. We're getting the same billionaires paying Republicans to run and Democrats to run. We've got to have some values that people can follow and align with and stick to it all the way. You can't be halfway caring about justice on one hand, saying, you know, you're against war, and on the other hand, you got stocks in Lockheed Martin. We as a party have to be consistent. It isn't a purity test, it isn't a perfectionist test, but it is making sure that we have principles. And we got to hold this administration accountable. This is a white supremacist who is a domestic terrorist and a supporter of insurrectionists leading the United States of America. So we have to fight. We've got to fight for a $25 minimum wage. We got to pass Medicare for all, because people are choosing to die rather than go in debt in the richest country in the world that overnight can come up with billions of dollars to kill innocent people in Iran, but people in my district can't afford to eat.
$1 billion a day.
A day, that's
for
it,
this
a day,
unauthorized war.
$1 billion a day. So we got to keep our priorities straight, and we have to make sure that we fight these billionaires who are building data centers in communities like Memphis and Mississippi as their own projects to make them richer, while the rest of our communities deal with poor air quality, poor water, and poor soil. Those are the things we have to push, and I think across the political spectrum, we are seeing where folks are feeling the pain, feeling the struggle, and they want people who are principled to fight for them. That's what we as a party and as a people have to offer consistently, and not yield, not bow down to any special interest, not bow down to anything that has been for what we know should be.
Now, thank you. Thank you both. And you brought up data centers, and you brought up that data center in the place where we both were born, in South Memphis. Let's talk about the Afrikaner scammer for a minute, that man built like a Cybertruck. Let's talk about Elon Musk. And let's talk about the fact that these data centers are popping up all over the country in service of billionaires just like him, who are part of these white supremacist systems, of white nationalists. Can you explain why it is so important for everybody on the left, and I mean all the politicians right now, to get on board with combating data centers?
Absolutely. If you are a Democrat and you are supporting the most exploitative and extractive industry of artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, and automation, you should not be a part of this party. We have to set a higher standard that we do not work for the billionaire class, we fight for the working class. And here's why. The data centers that are coming up all across our world, not just in America, but all across the world, are going to ultimately use more energy than we as humans completely consume in our entirety. Over the next 7 to 10 years, 15 to 30% of jobs are going to be gone due to artificial general intelligence and robotics. And there are some folks in big tech who say, well, jobs are going to be replaced and going to be created. That is not true for this form of technology. And many people who helped to found this technology, like Mustafa Suleyman, who wrote The Coming Wave, tell us this truth. And the reality is that we don't have something like a federal jobs guarantee to make sure that our communities are still able to have some dignity of some form of work. When this happens, we are going to be putting ourselves in not just a precarious position, but a dangerous position, because you're going to have millions of people who are without work, without access to opportunity, and you're going to have other folks who are flying spaceships because they want to feel what it's like to be weightless, while building and buying houses in other parts of the world to try and escape the harm that they have created. This is a unifying issue, and you're seeing it in rural areas. You're seeing it in urban areas where people are saying we need a moratorium. We need to pause. We need regulation. In fact, I saw an AI company say that we need to slow this thing down because the artificial intelligence is educating itself to be able to do things that humans were not prepared for it to do. This is an existential crisis, but it is also a very real environmental crisis, as you're articulating, because they're using fresh drinking water to cool these plants. Water, fresh drinking water in aquifers, y'all, is not infinite. But it should be going to humans, not to billion-dollar corporations' computers. The air pollution in our hometown, we're seeing more air pollution.
In a part of Memphis that already has the highest rate of severe and fatal asthma cases
That's
of
exactly
children
right.
across the country. Even
across the
before
country,
this.
with a cancer risk that's 4.1 times the national average, and 18 toxic release inventory facilities,
Yes.
where black communities are being targeted. And if you are black, African American, or Latino, you are 75% of us live within 1 mile of a toxic waste facility today. That is the status quo. So this is just worsening. Right? Let's be very clear about that. But we are being exploited, and our democratic institutions are failing. Even when we sometimes have Democrats in power who are mayors and city councilors and county commissioners, they're getting duped because they're saying, well, there's tax money. But when you're an elected official, you think about the consequences, not just in the potential benefits of capital that you get from taxes, but also what is the harm of environmental racism. We did the research with a PhD from Harvard University, Dr. Michael Cork, and we have estimated that dozens of people are likely to die due to the pollution from Elon Musk's XAI facility, to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars lost in economic benefit per year. Those are the real consequences. So this is where our activation, our education, and our work to make sure that the people who represent us fight for us. Not just talk about it, but are truly about serving our communities and not the interests of the billionaires and those at the top.
Yes, thank you. And Congresswoman, I want to pull it back a bit and go back to our beginning of our discussion talking about John Lewis Voting Rights Act, voting rights especially because you are in the fighting fifth in Georgia. And we are seeing what's happening across the South as soon as the Louisiana versus Calais decision came down from the Supreme Court to gut Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Can you tell me exactly, I mean, this is probably an obvious answer, your reaction to that in this moment, but also, what is the path you see forward to fight against this?
So I think we've all seen what is happening across the South, but I want to be clear that this is not a uniquely Southern issue. And we see that it's an attack on black representation, but this is not a black issue. We all have to make sure that we're showing up in this moment because, again, this is not black or Southern. This impacts all of us who care about fair access and who care about this country moving forward for the next 250 years. So Georgia is going into a special session on June 17th to redraw all of our congressional lines, but they said, hold my beer, Tennessee, because we want to make sure that we also redraw all of our state legislative lines.
They did.
So Georgia is redrawing not just the congressional, but the state house and the state senate lines on June 17th. And get this part, it's a 3-day special session. Starts on June 17th, it'll end on June 19th. So they're literally going to vote to take away black representation on Juneteenth.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly how they feel about black representation in this country. So the path forward is showing up, y'all. I don't believe in giving up. I didn't get here because people before me gave up. John Lewis didn't give blood on the Edmund Pettus Bridge for us to give up. I'm serving in Congress in this district that is the cradle of the civil rights movement. And so every day I know that I have a responsibility, even when it gets hard, Justin, to keep showing up anyway. And I know that's what you've done. We've seen you getting in people's faces.
What he said? He said, boy.
We've seen you.
That's my brother.
And we all got to get a little more of that good trouble in us, y'all.
Right.
John Lewis told us that this is not the struggle of a day, a week, or a month. This is the struggle of a lifetime.
That's right.
And each generation has an obligation to do our part. I'm here to do my part. I know that you wouldn't be here if you weren't here to do your part. We're doing our part, y'all, but we've got to do it together because I know that this is our civil rights movement. So when young people ask me, they're like, Congresswoman, I wasn't born back then. I don't know about that. I'm not from the South. Why do you talk about the civil rights movement? Because history is repeating itself.
That's right.
So if you ever wonder what you would have done during the civil rights movement, this is your chance to find out because this is our civil rights movement, y'all.
This is it. And so on that same note, Justin, I want to go to something. I'm sorry, Representative Pearson. Let me be formal. I want to go back to talking about what happened in Memphis. What happened in Nashville? It was a day. And what they did in slicing and dicing our beloved hometown, the only majority black congressional district in the state of Tennessee, in one of the largest blackest cities in America. And I want to comment on the fact that now there are folks who are pulling back on support, pulling back on funding because they claim that your race is unwinnable. And I personally don't believe that. I think that's voter suppression. I don't think that's true, but I want to hear your response to that.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we're going to win. That's what you got to know. You can rig the map. I said, you made it more difficult. You didn't make it impossible. That's where you got it wrong. And so we are rallying folks all across the country, building a 1,000-person volunteer team. Half of them are in this room. Go to votejustinj.com to join us. We have phone banking, we've got door knocking, we've got canvassing. And the reality is it is winnable. If it was a district when President Obama was running, he would have won by 8 points. Our last race that actually invested resources was nearly a tie between Democrats and Republicans. And it's allowed us an opportunity to go across 15 counties with the same message. The status quo is not working for you.
That's right.
Your gas, your groceries, your lives are unaffordable because the people who are instead trying to focus on culture wars don't want you to look up and see who's really in control of these systems that are oppressing us. And so actually launching tomorrow, we got a 15-county tour across New District 9.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Can't stop, won't
Right?
stop. We're going to Shelby County, all the way up to Williamson County. We're going to barbershops and barns. We are meeting people where they are, and that level of proximity is something that they have not experienced, right? A lot of people have started to take the South for granted, and you feel
That's
this,
right.
even in our own party, right? But 50% of black people live in the South. Leaving the South to somehow just deal with the powers of white supremacy and patriarchy and be like, well, we sure hate that happens, but let's go figure it out in some other places, is inherently playing into a racist playbook. Our organizing, our investment now more than ever needs to be in Georgia, needs to be in Tennessee, needs to stay in South Carolina. We need to invest in the South. We can't rest on our laurels in Massachusetts and New York and California. Love everybody from there, my wife from LA, but the fight for the future of our country is in the South, and this is our freedom summer.
This is it.
And so go on June 17th to Georgia. We're working with our team to get there. Come to Tennessee and knock some doors and meet some people who've never had anybody knock on their door before and say, look, the issues that you care about, there's somebody who's running who wants to address them. Because we can still win, but it requires investment and commitment. And I'm sorry, I love all the viral moments and that's all good, but we need folks in the fight. There's no room on the sideline. So come November, you should be looking at the race you supported, the race you knocked doors for, the race you donated to, the race you invested in. That's how serious this moment is. If you just watch it and pray, you're part of the problem.
That's right.
That's right.
Get in the fight. Join the teams because we can still win and we must still fight in the South.
Yes. Music to my ears. See, I love that. I always said I'm never moving above the Mason-Dixon. I went to Maryland, but I was like, I ain't going further. I love y'all. Again, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, beautiful. I like sweet tea. So Congresswoman, I want to talk a bit about, before we close out with like a final little word from you both, I want to talk about the fact that we are embarking upon, again, the anniversary of when Roe versus Wade was overturned, and your state was the site of some really tragic results of those abortion restrictions, specifically for black women. I'm, of course, speaking about Adriana Smith, who is not the only black woman, but it's been heartbreaking. And I want to give you a moment to talk about how important it is for us to restore abortion rights, especially when it comes to black maternal health.
So y'all, let me paint this picture for you. In Georgia, more black women die within 1 year of giving birth than they do in third world countries. More black women die within 1 year of giving birth than in third world countries. That's what it means when people use this term maternal mortality. And so we just need to make it clear to people of what's at stake. So I've introduced a series of bills. One of them is the Blood Pressure Matters Act. So one of the things that keeps causing these rising maternal mortality rates, which is very preventable, is postpartum preeclampsia. And I suffered from that when I have a 10-year-old now, so it's been a little while, y'all. But I was in the hospital giving birth to my Carter cakes, and the nurses came in. They'd already clipped my band, sending me home, and her face was like, oh my gosh, and I didn't know what was going on. But my blood pressure was dangerously high, and I was readmitted to the hospital. And all because she saw my blood pressure. But that does not happen in so many hospitals when they're discharging you across the country. And so in Georgia, over half of our counties don't have an OBGYN. So who's taking care of these mamas that want to give birth? Let alone when you make the decision that parenthood just isn't in the cards for you right now. And so the Blood Pressure Matters Act would require insurance companies that we're already paying, they're already getting our money, it will require them to send every mom home with a blood pressure cuff so that they can check their blood pressure on a regular basis, because you can't leave a hospital without having a car seat to put your baby in, because they want to make sure the baby's safe, but let's make sure that the mamas are safe too.
That's right.
So there are so many things we can do. That's just one practical example of legislation that I've introduced. We have it as a part of the Momnibus Act, but I mean, we can have a whole sidebar on maternal mortality, so y'all catch me later, because I got a lot to say on that issue. But I know that we have a limited amount of time, but y'all, we've got to continue to stand up for each other, because our future literally depends on it. And that's why I do this work, because there are people counting on me who don't even know that they need me to fight for them.
That's right. Thank you. And so with this last minute that we have, a quick 30 seconds each, I would love if you each could take a moment and just leave folks with a word of hope and something they can do, because in this moment people feel very paralyzed. So Representative, would you like me to start with you?
I don't want to go after her. Thank you so much again, Elizabeth, and thank you, Congresswoman, for the opportunity to be here with you. My hope is in us. Our campaign slogan is, it's about us. It's in our ability to stand to meet this moment that we are fortunately here for. I don't know why God did it, but we all alive right now, which means we have an opportunity to change the trajectory of our communities and our country. And so let us not be weary in well-doing, because I do believe that our hope is in our hands. And in this moment, we've got to put our hands on this democracy. So go to votejustinj.com, sign up to volunteer. We need you. Do 1 hour of phone banking, that's all I'm asking for. Reach out to 5 people in your network and make sure they're registered to vote. And then when it's time to go vote, make sure they do it. The people in power don't want us to believe that we are powerful.
But we are.
But we are. That's why they keep trying to stop us.
That's right.
And the question that I think we are being asked is, have they done enough to make us quit?
Hell no.
No!
Never.
So it's time to put this democracy in our hands and in our shoes, knock some doors, make some phone calls, and fight like hell for the living. Because this is our country, this is our time, this is our democracy, and we ain't going nowhere.
That's right. And Congresswoman, just a final word of hope to send out to the
I think
people.
it's time to pass the collection plate now, Justin.
Absolutely.
Literally.
We Southerners.
I need y'all to remember that getting into good trouble is not just a slogan, y'all. John Lewis meant it when he said, get into good trouble, necessary trouble. And this is our time. You've got to find a way to get in the way. It's not always comfortable. Sometimes you're going to be standing alone. But this is our moment. This is our civil rights movement. And it's up to us how this chapter ends.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you all so much. We are so grateful to Netroots, to everyone for being here. Please, another round of applause for Congresswoman Nikema Williams from the Fighting Fifth in Georgia. And another round of applause for Representative Justin J. Pearson in Tennessee, running for the Congressional 9th District.
Yes. Thank y'all.